So everybody was waiting for me to make my first mistake. I am not a homebred, homegrown within the shipping industry. And at that time, we used to have this episode called Coffee with Karan. What I need to tell you, Payal, was that I was the only woman candidate amongst eight male members of leading a company at the time of crisis. Just a 9 to 5 job or a 10 to 6 job. So pulling them out of that.
And today with us, we have in the studio none other than Mrs. Harjeet Joshi, the former chairperson and managing director, Shipping Corporation of India Limited, managing director, India Ports Global Limited, and director, finance, Shipping Corporation of India Limited. And she joins us once again on the Payal Nanjiani Leadership Podcast to talk about thinking like a CEO. Harjeet, so honored to have you here. You've been here on this podcast, and I had to pull you back to come again because I know the type of work that you do. We all need to hear it. So, thanks for joining again.
In fact, thank you, Payal, for having me here because your podcast is something which is, really very, very listened to, as well as your reach is so far. So, in fact, I'm honored that you've wanted me to come over to your podcast. And yes, it's the second time. And I
Yeah.
recall the first time we just went on, it was much beyond the scheduled time, and we had so much to chat and talk and share for your
Yeah.
audience. I'm sure this time as well your audience is going to benefit from whatever interactions we are going to be having today.
I'm absolutely sure because Arjit, you are one person who has not only just made a name, but you have been giving back so much overall to the society, to everything. So, before we dig deep, your journey is tremendous. I mean, it's an awesome journey. I know you personally, so I know how much impact your journey has had on me. I want our audience also to know that. So, you have been the first woman chairperson in the shipping industry. And I'm sure it's not been a easy journey. Tell us a little bit about it. How did you get to be known as that?
So, Payal, I need to go back to the fact that I am not a homebred, homegrown within the shipping industry. So
Uh-huh.
that is the point number one, which of course made my journey very difficult. So I was 31 years into the oil and gas sector, and somehow there is something within me which keeps seeking challenges, and I think that is the real crux of my success. So and that is the reason why I've kept growing, because I always wanted to do something once I've reached a certain level and I feel it's something which I know everything about, that before the complacency can set in, I start looking for newer pastures. And that was the time with 31 years in ONGC. I sort of knew everything about the company and I wanted a more challenging role for myself. And that is the time when I came across this opportunity of Director Finance and Shipping Corporation of India Limited, which is a sort of a national level position, which is the selection happens at the level of the central government by the Public Enterprises Selection Board. So I applied for it. Again, whenever I do something, I don't sort of, get really hung up upon that I want this. I have got the confidence that whatever, uh, many times you face failures and you feel you
Yeah.
failed. But I've always felt that, it's not that. Maybe there is something better in store for you. So when I applied, I wasn't really hung up. I knew I wasn't from the shipping industry. Uh, but what I need to tell you, Payal, was that I was the only woman candidate amongst eight male members. And somehow I made the mark. I got selected and got my appointment as a full-time director finance in Shipping Corporation of India. Now that is like changing homes. You've been in an industry, your grassroots level growth is there.
Yeah.
You know an industry in and out, and here you take a risk of going into an absolutely new industry about which you don't know anything. You don't have any godfathers, godmothers, because you are an alien in that industry.
Right.
So that is the way I started. And because I was new and because I had this hunger for knowledge, and of course, I am a risk seeker and I look forward to challenges. So I had to do a lot of homework to understand the industry for getting acceptance. And, that is where my interest came in because it was something new. It was something which was, holding my interest. And in 4 years' time, when the position of the chairperson and managing director stood vacant, I had actually transformed Shipping Corporation from a loss making to a profit making as a director of finance.
Wow.
And I think the government had taken note of the fact that I had transformed the company. And of course, once you're doing things, your work speaks a lot for you.
Yeah.
And and the government, I think, had noticed me, and so there I went for my second round of interview for chairperson and managing director, again at the Public Enterprises Selection Board. And once again, I was the only woman amongst all the male candidates, and I got selected. And that is where my challenge started because, you know, being the first woman to head a national shipping company and also in an industry which is primarily very male dominated. So getting acceptability is a very big thing. Having a woman boss is one thing, but heading a national shipping company and that to the largest shipping company of the country was something. I had all eyes on me, and I'm sure everybody was waiting for me to make my first mistake.
Hmm.
And I got my appointment in September 2019, and the COVID, as you know, happened in March
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
So it was like I was, as it is, in the midst of a lot of challenge and
Hmm.
storm. And as if God felt that was not enough for me. So I had the biggest challenge of leading a company at the time of crisis.
Wow.
And I think that is, Payal, where I made my mark.
Yeah.
Because see, as a woman itself, in normal times to lead the company was a big challenge considering
Hmm.
that you were not really accepted for mainly two reasons. One thing, you were considered as an outsider still. Even
Hmm.
after 4 years, you were not somebody who was homebred and who had grown in the industry. You were not a seafarer. You had
Hmm.
never been out at sea. Number two, you were a woman,
Yeah.
which and another thing is, while it's a male dominated industry, the industry as such is very conservative.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
they are not, they don't welcome intruders or outsiders. I mean,
Correct.
I and
Correct.
I think that's very natural. That would happen to any human being when even at a home, when
Yeah.
you have a
Yeah.
stranger,
Hmm.
you have your inhibitions. So I think that is where the challenge was at its peak. I had to
True.
prove myself,
Hmm.
get the acceptability. And in a way, I would say, Payal, COVID helped me because that was a situation where nobody knew any answers to
Hmm.
anything.
Hmm.
There were
True.
no precedences. So even the stalwarts of the industry would have fallen short because
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
COVID wasn't something. It hadn't happened for decades,
Correct.
such a situation. And that is where I got a completely free hand to do what I wanted to do the way I would have done. And once you take the right decision, you've done the first right thing. People in a crisis start believing in you.
Hmm. True.
In a
That is
normal
right.
situation, in a normal
Work is going
situation,
good. Yeah.
people will have enough opportunity to
Yeah.
challenge you. And
True.
but when you don't have the answers and there is somebody who's ready to take responsibility and lead you in a crisis,
Yeah.
and
The
if your
trust builds.
first two yes and if your first two three actions, decisions turn out to be good, then it's like, let her do it, we'll
Yeah.
just follow her.
Correct, correct. And that's how people begin the trust. But you said something very interesting, which I want to catch on. What was, like you said, you took the risk, you had the thought process. What was different that you feel you did that really got you where you are? Are there any different things, like when you're talking about thinking differently, or how does a CEO think, right? From whatever you have said right now, it definitely seems you were not bounded by your job description. This is what my job says, this is what I'm going to do, right? Most of the people, they do that. This is what has been said, they will do a little bit more. So what is it that when we say thinking like a CEO, what did you do different that really made you stand out?
So, Payal, one thing is that when this crisis was there, even though I don't want to talk too much about COVID, but the fact is, I was the CMD during the entire period of the COVID. So, all my performance, and in fact, we outperformed. So, what I would say is, what I did differently was a lot of ownership and belonging.
Mm.
What I did not take, even though I was a government servant and I had a fixed term, I still did not take this as a job. I
Okay.
did not take it as, I've been assigned this role.
Mm.
I took it as if it's my company.
Mm.
That belongingness and that ownership, and also being ready to take risks and be accountable for all your actions and decisions,
Mm.
because that was a time when you could go wrong because there were no precedents. Like I said,
Yeah.
that it's very easy for a CEO to perform. If you've got prior CEOs, you can study them, you can see what
True.
they've done right, what
Yes.
they've done wrong.
Yes.
But when it was COVID, it was absolutely a clean slate.
Mm.
And that is the time, you're in the midst of crisis, you've got your vessels out there floating over there. COVID is spreading, like
Yeah.
it's like wildfire, literally. And to so it's a crisis situation in which normally people would panic and they would not know what to
True.
do. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
being very, very calm, even though women are considered to be emotional, but I'll tell you, that was my strength of being calm in a crisis and being able to think logically and think beyond the work of the day.
Mm.
You've got to think, and that is what is required of CEOs. You need to think much
Mm.
beyond the day, the week, the month. You need to see what's coming on, and
Mm.
you need to prepare for that, and you must have alternative
Mm.
plans, so
Mm.
that when the situation arises, you've
Mm.
done a fairly good study of it,
Correct.
and either one of your options would fall into place, but even if they don't fall into place, you've done your elimination and
Mm.
it's easier to take decisions. Another thing which I, as a CEO, did differently was I took decisions,
Mm.
because there was a crisis situation. There was nobody else to back up on. Even the government wasn't functioning at that time. Nobody else was functioning. You could not go out and network and discuss with peers or find, everybody was in a crisis. So you
Mm.
could not consider that you are in a crisis, there's somebody else who's going to help you out of it.
Correct.
So
Correct.
you had to take decisions,
Mm.
right or wrong. And I think that is where I was bold enough to take decisions. It's another matter that since I did my homework well, my decisions turned out to be right. But what I'm trying to say is, even if you feel your decisions are not going to be correct, even if sometimes your decisions go wrong,
Mm.
do not hesitate to take decisions. I think the biggest
Yeah.
problem which people do is they get into a vicious circle of uncertainty,
Mm.
because you don't have you can't see the future. So
True.
you feel that, what if you keep thinking and you start, that is where you start panicking, and you sort of get into an ambiguity circle, I would say, where it becomes even more difficult to take a decision. So, taking decisions is very important. Delaying, pro, sort of for any reason, not wanting to take a decision, not wanting to take a risk is a no, no for me. I
Okay.
think as CEOs, you need to take decisions, you need to take risks. Your decisions could go wrong, you need to be accountable for them. But so long as your intentions are good, I think 99% your decisions will be right.
Right.
Your
Okay.
decisions go wrong only when you are not taking decisions on merit,
Ah,
only when you have other factors pouring in, confusing you, and then you get waylaid into taking a decision which probably may not be the right decision.
right decision.
So
Yeah.
long as you take your decision on merit, 99% the decision is going to be
Wow.
right.
But that is something very nice you said. When it comes to decisions, we usually fear, right? So, did you not ever go through like a fear, self-doubt, imposter syndrome? Did that ever affect you?
Uh, Payal, I have been a person, like I told you, I always seek challenges. So, even if a decision was to go wrong, I
Hmm.
would have taken that as a challenge to set it right.
Okay. Okay.
So and like I told you, after 31 years into an industry, I knew in and out, I took the risk
Ah,
of going out. So I have never had this syndrome of, having self-doubt or an
so
imposter
good.
syndrome. I've never
Ah,
felt that. In
okay.
fact, it's the other way around.
Ah.
I've always had people doubting my capability. And I've had to prove,
Prove it.
uh,
Hmm.
yes.
Right.
And knowing that I take on challenges, I venture into unknown pastures, there is no scope in my case for self doubt because
Okay.
I'm doing something which is, yeah, I'm not going on the beaten path. So
Ah.
if I self doubt myself,
Then
there's
others will
no way.
also,
They
yeah.
are already doubting me. They
Already
are already
doubting.
doubting.
That just proves it to them that we are right. Correct.
And every doubt that I've received in my life has been a challenge for me.
And that is very right. No, I have learned so much from you in this that whenever I have met with you, so I have seen that you are, you have that inside of you that we'll do it. Ho jayega. Like, you
Yes.
have that attitude in you ke dekhte hain, let's
Yeah.
take the step at least. Then we'll see whether
Correct.
it worked or not. I think that taking that first step itself becomes so challenging for many people. Should we do? And like you said, you just moved on from a stable career which you had, like a known path, to a completely unknown industry. But that didn't make you doubt yourself. It, in fact, made you take a leap and go forward, right? Now,
Correct.
when you are going through this journey and you are moving upward, I'm sure a lot of things had happened which you have not worked on before. Like there must have been many invisible things that a CEO works with, which is not known. So as soon as you took up the role, what were some of the things you felt, oh, I've never done these things. Now I have to do these things. Was there anything like that?
Uh, so the first thing which actually I faced, which I'm sure most CEOs don't face,
Hmm.
is I had a lot of pending work.
Okay.
As happens in government, appointments sometimes get delayed. So while I was appointed as the director of finance, I had a big challenge
Okay.
in terms of there hadn't been a full-time director of finance in the company for 1.5 years.
Hmm.
So there was a whole lot of backlog, other than the fact that it was like when you are heading a department. I was, as a director of finance, I was heading the finance department.
Hmm.
People have been like headless for 1.5 years, and it's
Oh.
like, everybody being a little bit of a stray
Uh,
because, because you had nobody to guide you and direct you, and there was no focus at all. So
hmm.
everybody would do what they wanted to do as they wanted to do, and
Hmm.
it was like, ho gaya, they've done it. And sort of excellence was not part of their culture.
Hmm.
Now, as a CEO, it was like starting from the scratch practically.
Hmm.
So when you are heading at a certain level, you presume that, everything is going to be in place and you're going to work forward. You're not going to work
Right.
backward.
Right. Right. Right.
But in my case, I had to work backwards to
Hmm.
first clear up and also bring in a culture of performance,
Hmm.
a culture of merit, a culture that come what may, we are going to be the best.
Yeah.
Now, that is something which happens only when there is a leader to guide you and direct you. These people did not have anybody for 1.5 year, and a certain amount of government culture is there in the organization where people want to do just a 9 to 5 job or a 10 to 6 job. So pulling them out of that if you want to grow, you need to do something extra.
Hmm.
So my standard sort of sentence to everybody was, see, if you've done your work, you've been paid for it.
Yeah.
So it's quits. There's
Hmm.
nothing, don't,
Yeah. Like a
if
favor.
you've done, yeah. And I mean, when I'm going to evaluate you, I'm going to just assess that what you were assigned, you did it well. So that's the least that you had to deliver. So what's so outstanding about you?
Hmm.
So if you want to be outstanding, if you want to be exceptional, then you've got to do something more than what has been assigned to you on your
Hmm.
own. And
Okay.
I think that is exactly what I was doing.
Hmm.
And that is what I was demonstrating to them, that you've got to go beyond your assigned work and your assigned role.
Hmm.
You've got to take on more responsibility. You need to be more involved. What I tried to tell to them was that if you are coming for a job
Hmm.
and thinking that's your career, then there's difficulty
Yeah.
in growth.
Wow. That is so
You've
well
got
said.
to you've got to think that
Hmm.
this is your business and how will you make it grow.
Better.
Whatever you are doing today, how can you do it better? I said there would be no innovation in this world if you kept doing what you've been doing for years together.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
every day try and see what is it that you can do better than
Hmm.
what you've done. And I said, I'm not going to tell you that because you are the best person to assess it, and you should come with your ideas to me that we can do this better.
Correct.
Because you've
Yeah.
been doing that job, you are best at assessing how you can do it better.
Right.
And that is how I got all of them involved. So
Hmm.
this was something which I don't think I had anticipated and expected.
Hmm.
But it's kind of getting involved.
So more like taking up your own responsibilities. You said
Yes,
something, one more thing very interesting, and I wrote down here, which I have also observed. You have been a very people leader. Okay. I
yes.
have heard your team talking so highly about you, Harjeet. Like literally, they are inspired by you. And it's not just your team, a lot of women, a lot of men around have been so inspired with you and what you're doing. So I have seen you as a people leader, that you are taking up the responsibilities you are doing. To be a people leader, I'm sure there have been, when you spoke about decisions, there were many times when you had to make a decision, but it was not, your people did not support you, or maybe they found it very difficult. But you being a people leader, how did you balance that?
Slightly difficult, of course. Again, I'll not take the example of COVID, because during COVID, we had to do things, we had to call them to office, which was a very difficult decision, but I won't talk about that.
Okay.
Let me tell you about, uh, again, I'm sharing something about government, because you've got governments everywhere and you've got
Yeah,
CEOs, and the
yeah,
culture is very different. So in a government, what happens is, employees generally look for those small perks, freebies,
yeah, yeah, yeah. True.
and transportation is something which is a very big weakness,
Yeah.
because logistic convenience is something which everybody looks at, and you really want to jump at it. So of course, as a director of finance, I had already studied it, but as a director of finance, I was not in the position of taking a decision relating to it. When I was in the chair of the chairperson, uh, I when the proposal came to me for you know, having the contract for the logistics, the
Okay.
taxis and the car contract. So I asked, what is the need for this? Because if you recall, at that time, Ola and Uber had just started and they were doing
Yeah, yeah.
pretty well.
Right.
So I said, since I was also holding the charge of director of finance,
Hmm.
so not as the chairperson, because as the chairperson, I have to take the decision.
Hmm.
But as a director of finance, I've got to scrutinize the proposal. So, I had to be very careful that how I would scrutinize the proposal as a director of finance, because I was eventually responsible for the operations and the
Overall,
business
yeah.
as the chairperson. So something which involved financial propriety, but you've got to also keep the business in mind. I had plenty of those tricky situations. But talking about employees, so I said, just give me a assessment of the cost implication if we were to hire Ola Uber
Hmm.
for the same work, whatever frequency you want, versus a contract where the car reports to you at 8 in the morning, whether you need it or you don't need it,
Hmm.
and then you pay for the whole day.
Hmm.
So obviously, the economics turned out to be in favor of not having a full-time contract,
Okay.
and and relating to people, there are several people involved. There are people who are
True.
dealing with the contract,
Yeah.
who got interest in the contract getting awarded. There are plenty of employees who know that the car is free.
Hmm.
So they were
They can
using it
use
for
it. Yeah.
they were using it for their own purpose, but at company cost with no business of the company being done. They were even getting picked up from the house, and obviously at the end of the day they would say, even if they had
Yeah.
done work, get dropped at the residence and things like that. So
Hmm.
I was aware of it, because when I was coming and I was going, I was watching what was happening. So you've got to keep your ears to the ground and your eyes wide open. You really don't need to have spies around you. You yourself need to absorb what's happening. So
Yeah.
you should stay within your glass chamber. You need to be out and keep watching what's happening. So obviously I took the decision that this contract will not be done. Now, once it's an Ola and Uber, people could not call it at their residence because the record gets created.
Correct. Yeah.
So it was a decision which had a mass impact in the company. I hadn't known, I had observed it, but I didn't know there were so many people who were,
And in
really
the
benefiting from this.
hmm.
So there was a lot of resistance, a lot of noise, a lot of issue relating to operations will get affected. So I said, nevertheless, we will see how it goes.
But
Nothing
one of your
happened, work went on, fell.
But see, one of your biggest advantage is that you have finance background. It's a big plus, right? When you know the finance and how it operates and everything. So having that background, having all the things that you are doing, did you find when you use the word resistance that there was resistance? Do you feel that a lot of resistance also came because you're a woman chairperson, or was the resistance just because of the project itself?
The resistance which I experienced was only because of the benefits which were being
Okay.
literally
Okay.
snatched from them.
Okay.
And I could convince while obviously it's always a group which is taking the benefits, it's not the entire organization. So
Hmm.
what I did is, we used to always have the flag hoisting on the 26th of January and 15th of August, and on the foundation day where the chairperson is supposed to be addressing the employees at large. And
Okay.
that is the time when I said that the you as employees need to realize that if the company profits, if the company grows, you grow, because
Hmm.
employees get bonus. So I said, if there is not enough profitability, because there is a certain group of people who are getting the benefits prior to the company getting profits.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you, all honest people, large group, is actually losing out. So,
Hmm. You
I
exposed to them.
actually, yes, I sensitize them to
Hmm.
the fact that if you want to grow, then the large community who is honest has to grow, will grow only if the company is growing. So we need to ensure that we block all those avenues which are draining the company of its profitability. So I
Okay.
said, this is just one small step which I have taken, but I've taken it in the larger
Larger.
interest.
But, this is a huge
So
decision
I had to explain it to them that the company is going to benefit, but you're going to benefit because if the company gets
also.
profit,
Yeah.
you earn
You are
bonus.
right. But see, Harjeet, this is a huge decision that you had to take, okay? To take such a huge decision, there are smaller decisions that people take that impacts them. It triggers their emotions. Oh, will people like it? And if we hear all the negativity from people, we start to really go into our shell. Now, you took a huge decision. Do these things emotionally trigger you in any way? Do you keep thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, will it happen? What if people don't like me? What is all of that? Does it play? Because I know there are so many people, even the smallest decision in the company, they are afraid of taking because it also triggers their emotions in different ways. How do you manage that?
While you brought out a very, very important question, and this point is applicable across the length and the breadth of the company
True.
everywhere. Where most of the time when we are taking decisions, we take emotional decisions.
Hmm.
And 99% of the time, your emotional decisions will be wrong decisions. So when I take decisions, I allow my head to rule my heart. I've
Wow.
never
Okay.
allowed my heart to play upon me. And
Hmm.
I've tried to always take decisions which are righteous in my own assessment. And for that, you need to have a very high level of integrity yourself.
Hmm.
Because there are a lot of factors which play in the background which influence your decision making. So I would say if you've largely got a clean background,
Hmm.
you've got no baggage, you've
Hmm.
got no obligations to fulfill towards anybody, you are able to take a clean, clear, fair decision.
Hmm.
And even if you are not, you know, every time you can't please all the people all the time.
Yeah. True.
But you've got to see, so long as your decision is right for the business and for the company, you will be able to tide over that small resistance which
Yeah.
comes. Because, people were even going to the union, and in the government, union is a very big
A
thing.
lot.
But
Yes.
the minute I told them that because of a handful of people, you are year on year losing on your bonus, because when I had come in, the
Hmm.
company was into losses. So
Oh,
I said, you don't know, I am going to block every leakage in the company and ensure that all of you earn bonus
more.
and your pay beyond
With
your
the profit and
fixed
everything.
salary. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy because people don't understand at the same time, but you addressed it at a larger gathering, like you said, on the August 15th and all. But otherwise, it does take a lot of time for people to understand because they are okay with these quick bees that you're getting, like you said, right? And that makes it very difficult.
But Payal, I also did one more thing, which most CEOs don't do.
Hmm.
Uh, I used to, on a periodic basis, write to all the employees. So I
Wow.
had
Which
my
means what were you
IG.
writing?
So whenever I was taking some major decisions where I felt there would be a lot of grapevine going around
Ah,
and a lot of miscommunication and misinformation, so prior to announcing my decision, I already had my communication ready first.
wow. Okay.
So the minute we announced a change, a
Ah,
decision where we
ah.
knew opposition would be there, morning the
You would
decision
send the.
would be announced. By evening, people would be thinking, and a lot of people would be discussing, collaborating, opposite
Yeah.
gearing opposition and everything. By evening, my communication would go out
Wow. I mean, that's really
explaining.
proactive, huh? Very proactive.
Yes. Yes. So and explaining the action which I had taken, and I say that if the explanation I have given you and the purpose with which it has been done, it is not to upset you, but these were the objectives. And if you feel any of my objectives is not correct, And at that time, we used to have this episode called Coffee with Karan, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I, so I told them you can have the coffee with the chairperson
Oh,
if you
nice.
want to
That's so
discuss.
wonderful. Very few
So,
people will keep that door open.
being open,
Yeah.
not autocratic, like you said, I was always a people's leader. So I always, whatever decisions I did, I always took the majority into confidence. I mean,
Hmm.
whether I took them into confidence before announcing the decision or
After
once
doing stuff.
after, I mean, I always had the majority with me.
That's really
And you,
nice.
you'll always have few standouts, you know.
Yeah, right. But at least the majority are there, and you have communicated and kept the channel open and transparent. That is very few people do.
Yes,
And like when
yes,
you mentioned
yes.
about COVID also, I think COVID really exposed all CEOs to see who are the ones who are just hiding behind the desk and who are the ones out there. So I think in a way, whatever you touched really, really has been a great experience. So, Harjeet, before we move on to our rapid leadership round, I want to ask you what would be your major, major big advice to the people who really want to succeed in the companies?
So my most of it, Payal, you've covered in our discussions today. But my advice to them would be that believe in yourself. That is most important. Don't listen to what people are saying about you.
Very
You
right.
you need to go deep down inside you. You need to know yourself.
Hmm.
If you know yourself, nobody's opinion or nobody's comments are going to impact you.
Yes,
Because if you are going to go up, there'll be plenty of people who will be wanting to pull you down.
absolutely
And that is the time your own self belief stands by you.
right.
And every time you have a self belief and you go up, it only improves your confidence.
True.
So you need to be very careful about what you absorb in when you are on your success path, because there is going to be a lot of nonsense going around you. There's going to be a lot of negativity also, because it's a competitive world.
Yeah,
So you need to be focused. You need to be focused, and you need to ensure that you keep climbing despite the chatter around you.
right.
That is one thing. Second thing is, I think integrity is something which is very important
Hmm.
for success, because whenever we now you see it's everywhere in the open. Maybe things come up after 10 years, 20 years, but it can surface at any time. So it's very important that you ensure that you have a clean, clear record if you want to
Hmm.
go up, because
I really
that
like
can
that.
obstruct your success at any time. And while you are on your lower echelons, you feel nobody is watching.
Yeah,
But
so
but
right.
it's building up your character and your personality.
Hmm.
So you need to ensure that what is right you will do right from the start. If you build up on that, it keeps your confidence. No matter what happens, no matter what scrutiny you have to go through,
Hmm.
you will pass, because you've not had anything which is going to be a patch on your personality, on your character.
Hmm.
That is something which nobody really pays attention to, but that is something which is very, very important.
Very right.
And you need to get out of your comfort zone.
Hmm.
I've done it n number of times. We've seen in industries which is very common, people want their own people to grow to the top.
Hmm.
But
That is
if you
true.
see in terms of their success, they may be holding a position, but
Hmm.
what is the difference they have made to the industry? If you see, they really might not have made much of a difference. So until and unless you
Stress.
go to some uncharted territory,
Hmm.
you will not do something which is path breaking.
Hmm.
I
Right.
always
And for that, you
believe,
need that belief. Like you said, if you have to stretch yourself and go to those
yes,
uncertain zones, you have to have that belief that you said.
correct. And I always say, whatever scares you the most, and challenges you the most is actually going to bring you the maximum success. It's happened in my
Absolutely.
case.
Oh, absolutely. I cannot even, I cannot tell you how much even I believe in that thing. It's
Yeah.
that just
So,
that next
so
step which
you
you're avoiding.
yes. So people need to just get out of their comfort zone. You feel you are okay, you doing, but then you won't grow. You know, organic growth and inorganic growth, there is a lot of difference. So if you're looking for that
True.
normal organic growth, it's fine. But if I had an inorganic growth, so if you're looking for that type of a growth and success, where the success is not only for your own self, the
Mm,
success is where you've created a legend, a success where you've left stories for others to follow.
yeah,
That is the type of success that you should be aiming for, not only
right.
for your own success.
True. That is very right. I
So
just love the way you put this.
if you've created history, I think you're successful.
Yeah.
If you just risen to a position, I don't think you are successful.
True. And I think this is something you had spoken to me even years back when we had first connected, that it's not about just going through that history. It is about creating the history and creating new pathways for people to come. And I think you are, even now, you are still doing it. Like even now with your work and all the new things and projects we are working on, you're working so differently on the things. So that's really hats off to you, Harjeet.
In fact, Payal, I very humbly say that, but the fact is that the shipping industry, with respect to women empowerment, got transformed only after I took over the position as
I
director
remember. Yes.
finance.
Yes.
And now you see there are so many women who are doing
Mhm.
so well. But
Yes.
that is where, an icon is required, a leader is required, somebody you can look up to and imbibe and imitate.
True.
You become a torch bearer where you show the
Yeah.
path to others. But today there are so many, and it's only a decade of my being in this industry, but it has really transformed in terms of equality, diversity, and acceptability for women capability. And even today, if I'm getting a lot of opportunities within the industry, is because I've made a mark for myself. I've gained a reputation. And that is another thing which I would like to tell everybody while I was talking about that character part, that,
Mm.
your reputation always precedes you, no matter
Yeah.
where you go. So
Right.
everybody who's wanting to do will always do a background check of you and what all you've done. So you create an image, a personality, an impression about you,
Yeah.
which
True.
people with which people relate to you, reckon you.
Yeah.
So I think today I am known as the Iron Lady of shipping, because of the way I did not bow and bend,
Absolutely.
but I was strong and I showed them the right path.
Right.
And they also tell me that vessels are called she, and the
Oh,
vessels are built
wow.
out of steel.
My God, that's amazing. See, I've known you since 5, 6 years, and I myself have seen how you have been breaking the ceiling, not for yourself, but for others also, so that they can follow that path, they can grow. And I think that's so commendable, Harjeet, like really, really commendable. Superb. So, Harjeet, we'll move to our next segment, which is leadership rapid fire. Whatever comes to your mind immediately as one word or a sentence, please share that.
Okay.
Great. Okay. A must have leadership quality.
Integrity.
I can say that now I can understand it so well. First, I used to think integrity is like you just keep doing the good thing. Now it's like from the time you start, make sure that you have this in you. It's not something you build as you go upward, it's something that you always carry
In
with
fact,
you.
in fact you can't build it overnight, and you
Yeah,
can't do it once you reach the top. It becomes very difficult.
very right.
So
Because you are the
it has to be,
unknown.
it's part of your growth process.
So true. What's the one thing you wish you had known when you actually began your career?
I'll take the quote from your that it's going to be unstoppable.
Ah, That's true. But you are already, you're already unstoppable from the time your journey has started with the way you explained. What's your personal mantra and saying or a quote that helps you through the day?
So I was always very impressed with Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind.
Hmm?
So my mantra is tomorrow is yet another day. So I
Oh,
never give up.
oh, that's fabulous.
I was
Which,
really, really very influenced by Scarlett O'Hara, Gone
hmm,
with the Wind, when
yeah,
I've
yeah.
read it. I mean, she was another
It's
very strong
inspirational. Yeah,
personality.
it's very inspirational.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true. Which superpower would you choose? Invisibility or mind reading?
Mind reading. I do it right all the time.
You already do it. You recognize people so well.
It
You know,
helps you,
in my
especially in the leadership.
yeah, in my fourth book, I think I don't know whether I gave it to you, but in that there's one chapter which says great leaders are mind readers, and I think you definitely are able to connect with people. You're able to understand them. That's self is mind reading.
No leader should become invisible,
I know.
because visibility is very, very important. Out of sight, out of mind.
That's so true.
So yeah,
If you could change one thing about the corporate world, what would that change be?
promoting people purely on merit.
Hmm. I so agree. Just tell a little bit about that.
We are, I've talked a lot about it today, that, you have so many influencers, there are so many pressures, there
Yeah.
are so many uh, people who've had godfathers, godmothers, they've got a
Hmm.
background.
Hmm.
So you have all these type of pressures, where I have personally seen that, there have been some very capable people who could not go up,
Hmm.
simply because they did not have the right type of connections, they did not have. And that is where I feel that, we are in some way promoting mediocrity, and if we really want the corporate world to really do well.
Hmm.
And we've been talking us so much that, innovations don't happen, R&D is not there,
Hmm.
and in so many other things. Why does quality suffer?
Hmm.
Quality suffers simply because you've not selected the right people.
Yeah.
So I think that is something which is very important. If there is something which I could change, I wish we had round pegs and round holes and square pegs and square holes.
So true, so nice. I love that. And Harjeet, I will not be surprised with the way you're going, touchwood. Those changes will come because you are working towards a bigger purpose. Every time I meet you, I feel she has a purpose. She wants to do something and leave a mark here, not for herself, but for India at large, for the world at large, so that they can learn, there can be the changes. So definitely looking forward to more such conversations, Harjeet. It's been such an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Payal. It's always such a pleasure. And when it's you, I think both of us can keep talking till the cows come
Absolutely.
home, because we've got so much, we've got the right type of vibes and we can connect so well.
True.
Thank you so much, Payal, for having me with you. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Harjeet. And this one's for our listeners. Wishing you loads of success in your career life. This is Harjeet Joshi and Payal Nanjiani. God bless.